What's going on, everybody? Israel Galindo with Advanced Networks. I hope you guys are doing great out there. So I wanted to do another cool video for you guys. And I know techie can be cool, and then sometimes it's not. It's just tech, right? So I like to make it fun. I like to make it interesting and exciting. So a lot of you guys have sent me questions in regards to how the internet operates. How does it work? How does it flow? Well, the simple way to explain it is DNS. And you've heard these terms over, and if you have not heard of DNS, I'm going to explain to you what that is. So DNS really stands for the Domain Name System. I'm going to make it simple for you. So DNS is a direction of an exit, if you will. If I'm going to be on the freeway and I know that my exit's coming up, there's a name on that exit, right? Now, you and I will know that we're going to exit Springfield. We know it as a street. We call it Springfield Avenue, Springfield Street. Whatever that exit is going to be, that is the name of it. Now, in the world of the people who drive the streets, we know it as that. In the people who manipulate and modify and look at the streets, they look at it by a quadrant, by a name specific to a map. So we might know the Springfield, somebody else is going to know it by 47B quadrant A. We don't need to know that. We don't need to know these things because that's written in a computer somewhere. That's what DNS really is. DNS is a way of computer services and other resources to talk to each other and really intercept each other on the internet, right? So domain name systems, the way they talk to each other is a set of tools, a set of items, records, if you will. And these records are really the behind the scenes. So we're going to break it down here in a diagram that I brought open for you guys. This is just, we're going to go over it through the website, to the internet, how it flows. And if it looks too complicated, don't think of it too complicated. We're going to literally break it down. We're going to talk about what an A record is, a Cname record, an MX record, and a text record. And if you're like, I don't care to know what those are, that's cool too. Let's show you anyways. All right, so we're going to break down on this screen. So let's just say this is you, Mr. Gray Guy over here. And you're like, yo, I'm going to go on the internet. What's up? And so you're going to go on the internet. Now, what a lot of us know and don't know is there are these domain hosts. Now, the domain hosts are going to be the places where you go and buy a domain name. An example, let's just say we're going to buy a website and it's called abc.com, and we buy abc.com. Now, we got to go buy it somewhere. So the way we break it down is basically when you buy something on the web, as I mentioned, abc.com, right? Like you buy a website, you're just going to go to one of these places, and they're going to be places like GoDaddy. Everybody's heard of GoDaddy, register.com, Hostgator, Google Domains, Network Solutions, many, many more. Does it matter where you go? It doesn't really matter. These are the places where you're just going to buy the name. Now, just to give you a quick update on that, there's a name that you buy and there's a host where you buy. What's the difference? One, you own the name. I want the name, Advanced Networks, right? I got the name. I bought the name. I have it. I own it. I stick it in my pocket, whatever. It's mine. I own it. But where do I host it? You can't really host it online for free unless you create your own servers in your house or your office or whatever. Then you can do that. But when you buy something, it sits on the cloud. It sits on the seller, if you will, and it's just yours. So let's just say we got abc.com, right? So we got abc.com and we bought it. Everything's cool. We bought it on GoDaddy. So it sits on GoDaddy. Now, there's many records. We call it DNS. And again, DNS is going to be all the different types of records that really flow the network, the system. We will go through all of these so you understand what each of these mean, what they do, why they do what they do. So basically, if I get, abc.com, right, and I decide to do a remote connectivity, I'm going to have my employees right now during the pandemic working from home. So all of these people that are working from home, they got to go to abc.com and connect somewhere, right? Let's just say I have a server in-house. I got a server in my office, and all my people from home need to connect. They're not going to type, abc.com/Joe, abc.com/Mary. What we're going to do is we're going to create what we call an A record. Now the A record, what that really means is it's a name equaling a number. Why a number? Because computers talk in the number world. An example, Google would be something like this: 17.11.12.45. Do you remember that? I don't remember that. I just typed Google. Now, there are many servers on the internet that have these numbers. Everything is assigned a number. Even your house internet has a number. My phone has a number. My car, that's digitally connected to the cloud has a number. This is how they talk to each other. But you're never going to see the house IP, as they call it, really much unless you're really techie. So what we do for these people, like say my remote connectivity, employees here, I'll create something called remote.mycompany.com, and that'll be the IP address that I have hosting in a building, and that's what people will need. They're just going to need to go to remote.mycompany.com. Then they're going to have a login. They're going to type it in, and as it goes through the internet goes, oh, abc.com is over here, but remote.abc.com is in the building over here in Los Angeles. So I'm going to redirect, again, an exit, like the freeway, right? I'm going to redirect it to where I told that remote lives. It's still part of the abc.com, but we have remote.abc.com, which is going to, again, take that exit to where I'm directing it, which is a office computer that I have sitting for the employees to log in, authenticate, all the good stuff. That would be how an A record connects to an IP address. So A record, IP address. Google.com, 12. Blah, 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 blah. NBC.com, 17. Blah, 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 blah. All of those things have different connectors. This is how they talk to each other. This is how they understand how it all works. Now, for your website, we're going to get a little bit deeper into that. When I have a website, I'm going to basically say, I own the name abc.com. It's sitting here. I own it. It's all good. Then I go to one of these hosts, again, GoDaddy, register.com, Hostgator, etc. And I basically put on there, I want to host it with you guys. Well, they assign to me a number. So my website would exist in whatever that number, I just faked it on there, 12, 15, 15, 30. You don't need to remember the number. Again, that's something that your host is going to manage for you. You're just going to care about the name. They're hosting it, they're putting it out there, and they're going, hey, Israel, here is your website. You just redirect everybody to the name. We'll handle the back end, which is going to be the numbers. So now, let's say that I have another company, and my other company has a different name. Instead of abc.com, I have def.com. And I want everybody that goes to DEF to go to abc.com. Now, that is what's called a Cname, a canonical name record. All it really means, it's an alias. My name is Israel, but my alias is. Everybody knows me by my nickname. It's Is. So think of a Cname like a nickname. So it's an abbreviation. It's something that when somebody goes to that, it knows to go to another place. So when I have a Cname record, all it really means, if company A would redirect to company B, or company B to redirect company A. Giving you an example. All right, so here we go. I have abc.com, but I just bought def.com because that's my competitor. And I want anybody that hits def.com to come to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on my DNS records, which are being hosted by my host. Again, the GoDaddies, the registers, the Hostgators, they're the host. They have a list, and on that list, you're going to see your records. Now, all you're going to do is you're going to create what was called a Cname. I want DEF to equal ABC. So when you're looking at the records here on Cname, you're going to see connect.mycompany.com equals mycompany.com. Now, why did I do that? I don't want people to really have to worry about going to or remembering one name, so I'm giving them a different name. All their computers, this is my employees, I tell that computer on the back end, connect.mycompany.com is going to redirect to mycompany.com. That is an alias. That's a Cname. You can have as many as you want. Maybe you're one of those people that are a plumber and your website is plumber.com, but you have residential.plumber.com for residential, business.plumber.com, right? And then you have something like ads.plumber.com. Again, all of those different aliases can go to your website. So you can have CNames that are name to name. It still talks to an IP address, but you don't need to worry about that. You're just telling the DNS, I got an alias and I need it to go here. That's really what a CName record is. Now, let's go further down on here. So let's just say you have a database server. Now, a lot of you are going to go, what's a database server? I've heard of it. I don't know. Any program that's calculating things. The best one to tell you, financial programs, QuickBooks, which is Intuit, Quicken, any of those programs, ERPs, those are programs that calculate. They're like a brain, right? Like a big brain, like something in the movie Tron. So, and if you haven't seen Tron, you're going to see Tron. Anyways, these database servers are just huge brain computers that calculate and manipulate numbers or data, or could be a shop, database, etc. Now, on these database programs, a lot of the information that's coming in and out comes in huge bunches. So like this, right? You're going through, again, in your car, you're going through a toll booth. And every day you go in and you give that guy the $5 bill to go through the toll booth because that bridge is expensive, right? So you're giving that money there. Well, now you're starting to bring the guy loads of money. You get bags and bags and bags of money, and you're bringing him these huge bags that don't even fit on his window. So he's like, hey, all right, instead of doing this, let's give you a side exit where you're going to pull into, you're going to open this huge sliding glass door, and you can just drop everything in there. That's a little further advanced, but that's called FTP, File Transfer Protocol. All that really means is you're transferring data into something. And the reason why I'm giving you that example is because when we are looking at it from two ways, when we are looking at it from the A record, I can create abc.com, right? But I can have files.abc.com. Now that's an alias because I told you files.abc.com, abc.com, Cname, alias, boom. But a lot of us that are programming, a lot of us that are developing, we go to a number. So let's just say files.abc.com equal a number. And the number for me to drop off all these bags of stuff, 12.15.15.30, again, could be a section of your server where stuff's being dropped off. That, again, nothing you have to remember. The servers know all of these things. You're just going, I want to do an FTP. I'm dropping a lot of stuff off. And the server goes, okay, here's your name, here's your number, here's your FTP. All of these things I'm telling you, whether it's www, that is a port. FTP, that's a port. When you securely go to your bank, HTTPS, those are all ports. You're never told what those ports are. You might have heard www is port 80, HTTPS 443, FTP 21. These are numbers that you don't have to remember because the computers do it for you. And that's why we type www. Otherwise, you would just put abc.com, a colon, and an 80, which is really saying, hey, I want to talk to www. Now, again, resolution, the computers do that work for you. This is what DNS does. It resolves these items for you. But in our world of today, we just speak the English language or any other language. We don't speak tech talk, which is the numbers. So in the examples I'm giving you for the databases, I create a record, QuickBooksMyCompany.com, remember an alias, is going to an A record, which is a number. It goes to another server. So when I type QuickBooks.mycompany.com, it knows that it's going to, here's my website, it's going to go to QuickBooks, which is a different server, which is a database that goes somewhere. That's basically what it means. Now, if I wanted to do an alias to it, QuickBooks.mycompany.com equals mycompany.com or abc.com, that would be the alias. So that would be for my accountant. He doesn't have to remember IPs and all that. Say, hey, accountant, you're just going to connect your QuickBooks and you're just going to type QuickBooks.mycompany.com. The rest is being done behind the scenes. It's an alias. It just really knows how to talk to your website. So we're talking about that. Now, let's get into email, which all of us do email. And this is the biggest example of a mistake that everybody makes. You buy a name, abc.com, okay? And then you host it somewhere, godaddy.com. GoDaddy says, here's Israel, Israel at abc.com. That's what I get. I get one email address and I go, I have employees. How do I get my employees in here? They're like, hey, pay more money. Here we go. Boom, drop some cash. And next thing you know, I've got daddy.com, joe.com, larry.com, steve.com. You know, we've got all of these names into the company. And again, I'm meaning Steve at abc.com. That's what I was meaning. All of these people that come in take a seat. You know, it's like getting on a bus. Everybody has an assigned seat. Mailboxes are the same. They are assigned places in a location of storage where you're going to drop mail off is what you're doing. It's post office, right? So in this setup of explanation, we get into what's called MX records, mail transfer records. You probably, when you're talking about to your mail host, my mail's not working. Oh, your MX records are broken. I have no idea what you're talking about. So what MX records are, it's basically locations. So again, right, you move, like you just got a new apartment across town and you moved. What do you usually do? Well, you go to the post office and you put in a card that says, I've moved. So when they go to take your mail and put it into one mailbox that was your old location, they have a move request, an MX record. And that record says, hey, Joe Smith moved across town. Go drop off his mail at this mailbox. It's green, it's pretty, it's on this street. Boom, drop it off there. That's your MX record. Now, a lot of us don't know, but we have multiple MX records. And the reason for that is if you have a street where your mailbox is being dropped off, and that street is closed, they're paving it, they can't get to your mailbox. But you know that there's another way to come into your street, right? There's 2 or 3 different streets that come to the back end of your house. Those are redirectors. Those are ways to get back to the mailbox. There's not just one way, there's multiple ways. So what we usually do is we have multiple MX records, you know, that go by priority. When you're going to go drop off my Amazon package, use point A or point B, and then point C, and then point D. Now, when in the internet something breaks, mail has to get to your mailbox. It has to. The only way to do that is going to be a different MX record. A lot of us would just put one, and then all of a sudden you don't get email because Google went down, GoDaddy went down, somebody went down. You don't get mail. Hey, I never got your mail. I don't know what happened. If you have multiple MX records that come into the same spot, which most of the hosts do, they're going to give you at least 2 or 3. I've never seen just one. I've always seen 2 or 3, and that's the minimum. Do you have to know how to do that? Nope. You usually will get your mail host to set that up for you. Now, I'm going to give you an example. So for me, here's my MX record. And in my MX record, what I'm doing is I set it up myself. I've got a mail server that I have in Los Angeles, one in New York, and one in Chicago, ABC. So what I do is I tell it, when you deliver mail, take the server route to LA, because my office is in LA, and then take the second route to New York and take the third one to Chicago. Now, does it matter that what if A and B fail and Chicago's the third? No, because they all talk to each other. They go back to my A record, you know, the IP address. And so what will happen is it's a roundabout. It goes, I'm going to go this way, but that one's broken. So I'm going to take a detour, go to New York, and then I might go to Chicago and then come back to LA. So all of those will come to my mailbox no matter what. That's just code that tells it how to get around. That is what your MX record is. Your MX record does a simple transfer. These are called simple mail transfer protocols, SMTP, or POP. You know, now let me give you a little breakdown on POP, because somebody asked me this question the other day. What is the difference between POP and IMAP? Simple. POP takes your mail and sits in your computer. They dump it from the sky, from the cloud, comes into your mailbox, drops on your computer, your device. It sits on your device. It never gets released. It doesn't really stay on the cloud. Just gets dropped off onto your system. IMAP, on the other hand, lives on the cloud, stays on the cloud. You ask for it and it gives you a mirror copy, but it stays up there. Now, a lot of you might go, oh, I don't want my stuff to stay on the cloud. Right, but here's the thing. If you have multiple devices, iPads, iPhones, Android, it doesn't matter what devices you have, computers, PCs, Windows, Mac, doesn't matter. instantaneously this mail gets distributed to all of them with IMAP. With POP, you might open up your device, like, I got my device open, boom, got it open, it goes here. When I go to my work computer, it's not there. Why isn't it there? Because POP decided to pull it to this device and dump it like a laundry basket, and boom, there it is. But it's no longer in the other locations because the web said, hey, here's his phone, grabbed it, dropped it, done, it's over. I got nothing. Unless you tell it to always leave a copy, which you can, but it's not as nice and easy as IMAP. Now, another thing about POP is going to be that POP is a lot slower than IMAP, and I'm going to tell you why. POP basically sits up there like I said, like a laundry basket. It gets full and full and full and full and waits for direction. As soon as the device goes, hey, I need it, it dumps it, but it dumps it in a bunch. It's like a lot of things are being dropped on it. It's not one device. Where IMAP is a mirror copy. It says, hey, I got something for that phone, got it. Hey, I got something for that iPad, got it. Hey, I got something for that. And it's literally directing it to all of these devices, extremely quick and extremely easy. And it's always communicating and syncing. That sync is going to be a quick and easy way for all of those pieces to mirror over. Now, another question that people have is, does POP, SMTP, and all of those things make my website slow? The answer is no. Your website lives and breathes on one set of ports, the WW port. SMTP, mail, POP, all of those things, IMAP, live in different ports. They do not live in the same universe. But, here's the big but, if you host your own web server at home, but you also host your mail server at home on the same exact box, then what you're actually doing is you're putting a lot of performance and CPU rendering into the same box. And at the same time, remember, you have one internet wherever you have that box, and you're pushing everything through an internet line. If your internet's slow, it's slow. If your website's slow, it's probably your internet provider and your programming. But at the same time, you've got that. So word to the wise, if you're going to be doing this at home, have a web server and have a mail server. Now in the days of virtual, create a virtual computer just for the website and a virtual computer just for your mail. That's how you should separate the two. You should never have them in the same device because you're pushing through much performance on that PC. That's why when you look at numbers, like if we look at numbers over here, on, like, say my company for my MX record, it might be 29, 14, 55, 22. But my website would be 12, 15, 15, 30. They're different IP addresses because they're different machines, not sitting on the same machine. So to answer the question of one of my friends out there that basically said, hey, does POP make my website slow? It does not make your website slow. It has nothing to do with the performance of your website. Even if it's mail.yourwebsite.com, that is a different address. Now, again, if you're hosting it at home, look at the machine by separation of the two. Don't keep them on the same box, and that's not something you should do anyways. All right, and then the next thing we're going to talk about is basically we're going to get into text records, which is really the last part of this DNS. Now, I'm going to bring the two into the command: remote office location and shop. And the reason why I'm bringing this to is maybe you have a shop and your website is shop.abc.com, and that's where I go shopping. That's my Shopify. That's my, my QuickBooks. That's my anything where I'm basically selling something online. Now, when you have very complicated and convoluted information, that's when these text files come, these text records. Now, text records are really resource driven. And what these resources do is they take capulated information. They're going to take, like, okay, Israel said that I'm going to take this port and I'm going to take this security and I'm going to take this way that they're going to get in and I'm going to cram it into a set of instructions, a text file. And then I'm going to take that and I'm going to tell the host, GoDaddy, Register, Hostgator, doesn't matter who, hey, anytime somebody calls this request for, like, say, shop, give these instructions. And these instructions can mean, hey, is the person legit to go to this website? Hey, how's your security? Hey, by the way, I have a certain port he has to use, but also when you get in there, switch the port to a secret one because we don't want, illegal things happening. Hey, I've got this encrypted information that Israel told me to put out there. It's all of these instructions that these text files do. So to give you an example, if I'm going to go over here to the bottom where basically it's got my text files records going on, I'm telling the cPanel shop at the bottom of my list, hey, Shopify record, use port 9000, but then translate it to 1111 and then encrypt it and then switch it to this IP address. Nothing you're going to have to do. You're just going to put in the commands to tell the security how to secure it. That's your text record. Only a few things use text records. An example of text records in email is going to be if I'm sending email to you out there and your server goes, let me check to see if Israel's server is secure. And then it goes and asks a bunch of questions on the security side. And my server doesn't have the security it should, and you're never going to get my email. It's going to basically go, sorry, Israel, not basically allowing you to send email to this person and vice versa because of security. Your text record doesn't match your DKIM, your DMARC, yada, yada, a bunch of other terms that we could talk about later. But in the end, these instructions are legit. So I got to go to my text file and I got to say, make sure you check for this. Put this security, do this, do that. I got to do all of those things to ensure that other servers out there are kosher with what I'm doing and vice versa. If your text files don't match what I'm looking for, my stuff will reject you. And that's just the way security is working with your text files. Same thing goes like with my remote offices. You're going to go, well, Israel, why do you have a remote office location and remote connectivity? Remote connectivity to me is going to be my employees working from home, connecting inbound. My remote office is going to be basically another office that I have, Chicago, San Francisco, LA, New York, and how these intertwine and how these talk to each other, as we call in a VPN world, tunnels. VPN is basically a tunnel, and I'm giving you way too much information. You're going to get confused. But my remote office can be Office 2, have a number. My Cname would be Remote Office to Office 2, These aliases, these text records, these A records. And again, my mail servers can multiply in multi-locations. So going through all of these things that we went over, an A record is always going to be a name equaling a number. A Cname, it was always going to be an alias. A apple equals B apple, or A apple equals orange. That's basically your alias, to name to name. An MX record is going to be a directional mail transport, and all that really means is how your email is flowing. Mail record, mail.abc.com equals this location by this priority, and that you can have again multiple for those. And lastly, the text records that we talked about were really the security directional informational file encapsulated with records that need to be sent over as a resource to provide ability to connectivity to hosts and readable information, stuff that again you're like, just put it in for me, Google, just do it for me, So again, remember, you are here, you're the cloud, and then you got the cloud going on, and then you buy the name where you are going to host it. Most people do that. Go to GoDaddy, go to register.com, Network Solutions, Google, many more. Now, if you ask my preference, let me just break it down for you. GoDaddy's great. It's cheap. It's inexpensive. In the making of this video, there's a lot of security risks that I've seen with GoDaddy, although they tell you there isn't, but really there is. So, you get what you pay for, right? Register.com, granddaddies back in the day, they're still good, but they're going to charge you an arm and a leg. They're pretty expensive. In my taste, they're way too expensive. Hostgator, I hate to badmouth Hostgator, but man, lately, anytime anybody goes out there and buys something, they're getting hacked. So security in Hostgator has not been as great as it should be, and they really need to look at that. And then when you look at Google Domains is really, really great. But Google Domains, realistically, if you're going to get what we call G Suite or business Google, like a Google email, yeah, go to Google Domains. That's fine. Now, is it difficult to connect to other things? If you're doing basic stuff, no. If you're a tech like me and you got to connect all the different things and open certain ports and do aliases and text records and all that. As a tech, they're a pain in the butt. They are a pain in the butt. And although they're great and they're not that expensive, their support does help, but you gotta spend hours on chat on the phone. Their support should be better with a name like Google, right? Network Solutions really is the granddaddy of everything, and they are great. I like Network Solutions. They've been around a million bazillion years. They're like kind of the granddaddy of everything, but they're very expensive. And I would appreciate it if they lowered the prices a little bit, but you know, they're the granddaddies. They're like, hey, we're the pimp daddies. We can charge you what we want, but they are a good company. I'm not gonna badmouth them. Other ones you can use is probably like Microsoft. They have their own DNS company that they work with, and then you start getting into all these other ones. You know, the Cnames and the this and the that, and you're like, who are these people? Look them up. They're out there, and you can really get good deals out there. As long as you just do your homework and check their ratings and check their reviews and complaints out there. That's probably the best information I can give you. Again, A records, Cnames, MX records, and text records. Don't be afraid of them. They're not that hard to just give you a good idea. If you buy a name, click on the DNS, and then you're going to see a list of everything out there. And that DNS is going to be just what I explained. It's going to be a list of records. And I thought I had one open here, but I guess I didn't open it. I should have opened that page for you guys. But it will give you other records out there. So let me know if you guys have any questions out there on DNS or anything related to DNS or records. If I can help, let me know. I'm happy to help. I'm Israel Galindo, Advanced Networks. I'll talk to you soon.